Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a literal legend of the sport, of combat sports. He's a good brother, a ref here out in California for the amateur scene, bare knuckle fighter, all of it. He's the one, the only. Actually, he's not the one and only because I've got two more, but he is the Crippler, Chris Leben. Chris, what's going on, bro?
What up, man? Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for getting the heat for my wife, because I was like, I gotta have these, because most friends, most people don't have their friends as action figures, and I was like, I gotta have my friend as an action figure, and my wife looked at the eBay deal and was like, the fuck are you doing? And I was like, no, I actually know him, so.
I told her, don't worry, it's 90% off.
Yes, it's 90% off. 90% off.
Since he retired now, it's discounted.
You know what? I paid a pretty penny for these, so you're still in high demand. I have you know.
Oh, thank you.
And even the comment section, Buzzkill over on YouTube said, hell yes, good brother. And Jesse Velasquez, who fought last night for Star, saying legends. That's more Chris than me, but I appreciate it. Now, I mean, hearing stuff like that, right? Does that, legend, right? I mean, do you look at yourself in that vein? Because you're one of the reasons why a lot of guys and girls started MMA.
When I hear that, it's cool. When I hear people go, when I was in high school and middle school, I watched you, and now they're fighting and stuff, that I appreciate. Sometimes when I hear the word legend being thrown around, it's a little hard for me to swallow, one. And two, it definitely makes you know your age, because nobody's calling you a legend when you're a greenhorn or a rookie, you know what I mean? So it means, but it's true. I definitely been around the block or through the ringer, however you want to put it, so I'm glad, I at least made a dent in combat sports, which is what I've dedicated my life to. So that's cool.
No, 1,000%. And speaking of dent, I mean, that almost is indicative of the Friday that you had, because, you got a bolt put in your tooth? I mean, what the hell happened? Was that fight related?
It's actually kind of funny because Bare Knuckle just posted, like I just watched it just now, my last fight with Quentin Henry. Well, the day after my fight, my tooth fell out. And I certainly wasn't ready to put it on the internet the day after the fight that my tooth fell out. And I just kind of wrote it off as one of those, well, that's a weird coincidence type of thing. But in hindsight, I went back and watched the fight, just now. I was going to put it on my Instagram, and he hit me with a pretty solid hook right on the side where the tooth fell out the next day. So maybe I'll give it to him. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I haven't decided. I haven't decided yet.
Which, by the way, I mean, are you over the threshold? And Jesse actually says, oof, I never thought about the legend comment that way. But it's speaking of thresholds, I mean, are you over the threshold of the Tooth Fairy? Because I hope you got enough cash for that tooth that fell out to get you a Chris Leben action figure.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Too bad he won't chew my food for me, though. That's the problem.
But at least he'll stand still, so.
I'm real actually pretty excited to, because I had to wait 6 months for the jaw to heal. Now they put the threads in, or whatever, the titanium, whatever, in. And now I got to wait another 4 months for the bone to grow around those. And then I finally get the tooth. So. But,
wow, that's a whole, is it a tooth anatomy class that you just put us through? We're gonna, you've graduated from the Crippler to the professor, Chris Leben.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it's a lot better than having nothing or a flipper like a lot of my friends. I'm pretty lucky, made it through my career. I still have my front teeth, which certainly know a lot of guys that cannot say the same. So you know what? I got all my teeth right now, and I want to keep it that way.
Yeah, I like it. I totally like it. Anthony DJ Tony Orozco, our good brother, the DJ, official DJ for the BKFC, says, "Hey guys, what's good, Anthony? Good to see you here." Uh, but I mean, speaking of your fight career, for those who don't know, how did you get into the wild and crazy world of combat sports?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, I guess. I mean, where do I start? I boxed in middle school. I'm gonna come out. It's like 1,000 degrees in my house, so bear with me here.
It's good.
Um, I gotta sit out here on the porch. Um, I did some boxing in middle school. In high school, got tripped by a bully. He was a wrestler, so I joined the wrestling team solely to beat him, which I did. Took his varsity spot and he quit. That's what kind of got me into combat sports, I would say. And then from there, some things happened. You can read the book if you want. I won't get into
Mm-hmm.
all of it, but my brother called me one day and he said he was a used car salesman. He said, "Dude, I'm selling cars, and Randy Couture and Matt Limlin are kicking the shit out of each other in the garage." And I went, "What? I'm on my way." You know what I mean? Like, huge UFC fan at the time. Randy was the champ, you know. And so I shot down there immediately. Sure as shit, they were just finishing up practice. Uh, Threw my money at Robert Follis, who was the head coach for Team Quest, and signed up and started training the next day. I think my first fight was maybe 6 months later.
Wow. And I
That was
mean,
it.
and isn't it, and Jesse says the ruthless world of wrestling, 100%. And it's kind of fun because that's a nuance deal because you're a trainer, you're a coach now, right? And it's a little bit different than the way you came up, right? Like, oh, Randy Couture, the guy from the UFC, they're beating the shit out of each other in the garage. It's different than current
Yeah.
day MMA training.
Oh yeah, the extreme couture, and you got these 5-star gyms with chandeliers and shit. No, we just had. I mean, eventually we had to put plywood up on the walls because people's heads kept going through the sheetrock in the garage. There, we didn't even have wall pads. It was just plywood to start. That's what we did our wall work on.
So I guess I mean if you remember, whose head left the biggest dent in the wall?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There was a couple heavyweights that went through the wall, though. They went totally through the wall. That's why the plywood had to go up. You know.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean that's, but again, that's the way that it was, and I mean, to kind of coin a reference from basketball, right? Where, I mean, did you think about this as a career? Because I mean, even in today's kind of climate, making money and being a professional fighter are two separate things. But I mean, the amount of zeros that you guys and girls got in that kind of like earlier phase of MMA or no holds barred NHB was a lot different than today.
It was a lot different, and kind of the way that I grew up and the road that was mapped out for my future. Believe it or not, even as few zeros as there was at the time, it was still a lot better than anything else I had going. And I remember after my first fight, there was the FCFF had an underground forum, and there was like 8 people talking about me. And when I saw that, dude, after I won that first fight, I was hooked. And then when I saw a couple people on the internet talking about me, this was it. I was going to make a name doing it. It was, all my eggs in one basket at that point. At which point I quit the job that I had, dumped the chick I had, moved moved into my best friend's mom's basement, for half price rent so that I could train all day long.
No, and that's, I mean, the sacrifices that you make, as you know, a lot of people see the glitz and glamour, especially in the current day MMA, and even think that is too rough, right? But I mean, it was again a different deal, and it's almost turning what most people, will think as the fundamental darkness. Oh, you can't get into fights and everything like that. And like you said, it was better. It was a better prospect and opportunity than anything you had going at the time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't, I don't understand the question.
No, I
I
just
get
say,
what you're saying, but
yeah.
I
I
don't.
mean, but I mean that was a plausible option. And again, the roar of the crowd. I mean, that's why some guys will.
Well,
I mean, we.
when you're 21, 22 years old, you're not thinking about retirement. At least I wasn't. I mean, maybe some kids are. Those are probably the ones that are college bound. Those are probably the ones that have their 5 and 8 year plan laid out for them. That wasn't me. Um, I'm just lucky now in hindsight, looking back, that my life fell together the way it did, because it was really just a sequence of random events, luck, faith, call it whatever you want. I mean, what are the odds that Randy Couture was going to be training in my hometown, and I could catch the trolley to go train with him, and train every day, and I had a place to stay so that I could do that, and so there was definitely a lot of luck or faith involved as well, but it worked out. Here I am talking to you.
Ah, man. And again, this is absolutely tremendous because I'm.
And so we're clear, I certainly wouldn't recommend this as a viable career path for any young kids out there. Um, like, I hear what you're saying. Like, at the time, for me, it may have been the best option, or at least to my 21-year-old mind, it seemed to be the best option. But stay in school,
Yeah, no, but
be
I
a
mean even.
doctor, be a lawyer, do something. Don't get hit in the head for a living.
Yeah, but I mean, even that, right? Let's say you get into Harvard or one of those Ivy League schools, you're paying $250,000 and wrecking your credit until you're in your mid 40s. So, yeah, potato, potato.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to be the devil's advocate for you here. You know what? Do both if you can. Go to school, graduate. Be like Phil Davis, man. Be smart, educated, and a world champion. Like, if you can, do it all. Absolutely.
Pearls of wisdom from Chris Leben. I love this. I'm just saying, And Shaman Steve saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Shaman Steve." Coach Rob up in Canada say, "Well done, Coach Rob. Approved. Good. Thank you, Coach Rob." And we be ready says John Michael at Combat Cutman. So I just love all the love we're getting out here. And Shaman Steve says blessings and well said, Chris. Well said. It says
Thank you.
Shaman Steve. Now, I mean, kind of bouncing back and forth. In terms of like your favorite memory, right? It doesn't have to be a fight, but do you have a favorite memory in, in your combat sports career?
A lot of highs and lows, man. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of great, amazing memories. I mean, if I really want to get sentimental about it, it's got to be the people and the training. My coach Robert Follis, and some of the times with him spent with him, some of the ways that he changed who I was, changed the way that I looked at things. Helped me grow up and mature. Um, I think without martial arts, I would have been dead. Maybe I would have lucked out and gone to prison or jail or something. But it's definitely, the sport and the people that I met in the sport that taught me to be a man. and taught me how to handle my business and turned me into who I am today. And so I think obviously, a lot of those memories of the people, would be a big one. And then of course, the victories are always great. I mean, I'm sure that's what everybody says. This was my favorite victory. That was my favorite victory. But
No, and I love that you mentioned Coach Robert Folis because he's one of the all-time greats, and I mean was literally the catalyst for a lot of the champions that you saw in the UFC. A lot of people's favorite fighter. He was the coach of, and unfortunately, he ended up passing away, pretty recently within the last couple of years. But that's I love the fact that people are talking about him because I hope he doesn't, his memory and his legacy don't get under the rug swept with a lot of things happen,
trained trained a lot of champions, that guy did, and affected a lot more people. And honestly, he's a big reason that I love coaching so much. That I aspire to have my own gym and be a coach and want to dedicate my life to training athletes. Is because I look at what this sport and what my coaches gave me. And I want to do that for somebody else.
No, that's imperative. And again, um, and that's one of the things that I love about the dynamics of combat sports. There's some coaches that have battle tested experience like you. There are some people like a Mark Henry, right, in New Jersey, that is a pizza guy, and he trains all of these fighters and what have you. There's no certain dynamic and what have you, but like when great coaches happen, it's almost lightning in a bottle.
Sorry, loud truck. Yeah, you probably heard it.
Yeah,
Go
no
ahead.
worries. No, but I mean, when you get great coaching, it's almost like capturing lightning in a bottle or winning the lottery. Because usually, at sometimes, you could have world champions and not have a good coaching or team dynamic.
You know, I see what you're saying. And I think that being a coach is multifaceted because not only is it important that you have technique, you have the ability to relate that technique, that you can understand an athlete and their physical and mental attributes and come up with a game plan and train them to really extort those attributes that they have, but also a big part of a coach is outside the cage and off the mat, you know, as a role model, as an inspiration, and you have to be able to help these fighters get to the fight, and a lot of times what sidelines us isn't it's not always an injury, it's not always something that happens in training. A lot of times it's something that happens at home or out in the street.
No, 100%. I actually saw Ben Jones of CSW. There was a kind of altercation that might have happened last night at Sparstar, and he was the calm in the storm that literally probably saved the person's life because yeah, and it's just like, Ben Jones, much like you don't think of as the peacemaker, but my goodness, I mean, I would have given him a Nobel Peace Prize after last night. It was bad. It was so bad. um, and Shaman Steve says a leader, 100%. Jesse Velasquez wants to know, what is your favorite KO? He thinks that you versus Terry Martin because you zombied him.
That was a pretty good one. You know, uh, Obviously Vandalay Silva, just because he was my hero. Um, but I think a lot of people, unless you've heard me tell it in the interview before, is a guy named Otto Olson up in Washington, from Everett, Washington. He was, I think he took second in nationals from Michigan. Real high level wrestler. He took second in Abu Dhabi, lost to Marcelo Garcia. And he was undefeated. And when I fought him, kind of expected to lose. And I went out there and he put me in his patented choke. And you could see from my friend's video camera the ref's on one side, and I raise my hand to tap, but I go to sleep before I could tap. And then somehow he readjusts or something, and I wake back up, and next thing I know, I'm stumbling backwards across the ring, and he shoots in for a double, and slept him. Just a drunken left hook, very similar to Terry Martin, except I was going backwards, got him coming in. I still don't know how I won that fight. It was, and he was the hometown hero, and I like being the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, instantly, every beer in the place went flying at me, dude. It was crazy. It's the last fight of the night. They were pumping the alcohol out. They had to sneak us out the back door. It was great. It was great.
I think it was the great modern philosopher that Jessica Simpson. She said, at the end of the day, a little bit goes a long way. And I think, I mean, hell, if you kind of out and you catch somebody walking in and you're on your heels and a KO appears, then you take it. You just,
it
a little bit goes a long.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's funny how things work out, because I look back and I think of all the times I got, lucky, and it's almost like maybe there's something to it, because it seems like some guys tend to get lucky a lot, and other guys tend to come up short, and after a while of being in this game, you just go, it's weird how that works out, man. It's to the point where I just don't believe there's anything as luck anymore. I think it's just, it is what it is, man. The harder you train, the luckier you get.
No, 100%. It's hard, 100%, and that luck. I'm still waiting for that luck. I'm half American black, half Fijian, and I filled out to 5'9". I want that luck of a growth spurt. It hasn't happened. I'm 36. Hopefully, before I get 40, before I start to shrink back down. But I don't know. Who knows? Alex Ramirez says, Leben just wanted to say thank you for knocking out Vanderlei Silva. You made some good money that night.
All right. Love that. That's better than when I hear, dude, you owe me money. I bet on you and you lost. Oh, yeah, that's the worst. The shit
great.
People say sometimes, the fighters, trips me out, man. Like, they're just so they just don't understand how much we put into this sport. I've literally had people say that straight to my face, and then get surprised when I tried to hit them, and they got, when I got mad. Like,
no, 100%. I mean, you've been sharing stories. I'll share a story of my own, and it was something that happened peripherally. But at UFC 199 at the Forum in Inglewood, the fight had already ended, and that's when Bisping knocked out Rockhold and what have you. And I wasn't even doing this at the time. I was just a fan. I grew up in Inglewood for the most part, and I was like, oh man, the UFC is coming to my hometown. Cool, whatever. And I was like, oh, let me get a picture or autograph by somebody. And I'm waiting, by the entrance ramp, the underground entrance ramp. And I see it's Matt Hughes and, Matt Hughes and somebody else. Robbie Lawler. That was it. And that was when Robbie was still champ and whatever. And here's like the current day champ and, the one who paved the way. Some drunken idiots were like, can I get a picture? And literally, bulldog chokes. One gets Lawler, one gets Matt Hughes, and they were cool because I was just like, I'd rather go play in traffic and put my head in a bear's mouth than try and do that, drunk or not. But,
yeah, it's great. I seen people try to feed a wild bear too. There is common sense is not so common.
Yeah, I know. And it's subjective, man. Like, again, there are some people that are just going to eat the crayons, and that's common sense to them. Kudos to you, man. If you made it work and you shit different colors, 10 points for you, The rest of us, I don't know. But here nor there. I I kind of want to go back to that Anderson. I mean the Vanderlei Silva. I mixed up the Silvas. I mixed up the Silvas. But you know, you fighting your hero. How was that? I mean, emotionally, that's got. I mean, it's the high of like I got the win and the money. The money is mine, to use a Vegas vacation reference. But
Yeah,
you knocked out your hero.
it was great, man. It was great. I started my career, before my career, my amateur career, watching every one of his prides. I used to get the bootleg prides, watch him murder Sakuraba. Thought he was dead, watched him beat him several times. Um, and I really thought I was going to lose that fight. I kind of planned on losing, but it's funny because fear is a pretty motivating thing, and for me, it's not the fear of getting hurt, even though I will say, like, some people that are tough, they're not scary. Vanderlei's tough, but he's real fucking scary. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna, like, let's say you're gonna fight Damian Maya. I might get choked out. You know what I mean? You know, big deal. He's dangerous. He's always dangerous. We know that. You're gonna fight Vanderlei, I might end up in a coma. You know, so there was that aspect, but I think I trained harder for that fight than I ever did. I was more focused. I got my life outside of the gym straightened up, because I'm always scared. I don't want to look like a bitch on national TV. I don't want to let down my corner. I don't want to let down my coaches. I don't want to let down the guys I trained with. I mean, that's, for me, that's what hurts about a loss more than anything. It's not the black eye or the tooth that comes out or whatever. It's the next couple months of having to train and walk around it, with that on your shoulders, because everybody knows you're only as good as your last fight. So I know I hate training after a loss, man. The next 3 months is like, I just want to get back in immediately. Like, let me get back in as soon as I possibly can.
Yeah, no, man. And again, that's the mind and life of a fighter, because, again, people, especially nowadays, Bellator, it's the conglomerates, right? Bellator is owned by Viacom, UFC's with Endeavor, One Championship has got, like, Sony money, and you look at it, and it's just like, that's all glitzy and everything, and it's just like, there was a whole era before that was way worse, and we're lucky to have, some of the guys and girls, much like yourself, still here to tell the tale.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that there's always been a certain aspect of glitz, to the sport, but what a lot of the people don't realize is that is literally like 1 minute after you win, when you get your hand raised and the crowd goes wild. The previous 3 months, the fight you just fought before that day, the day of the fight, the day before the fight, cutting weight, then the day of the fight, just sitting around on your ass backstage all day, not talking to nobody, sick, haven't eaten, but your stomach's too messed up to eat anyways. It's a lot of suffering, a lot of suffering for that glitz, that people see and they want to be a fighter.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, Rocky Nelson asks, have you spritzed on anyone's bed since your last season? I'm going to actually answer this for you. I'm actually spritzing right now, Rocky Nelson. But you can answer it, Chris. Yeah, have you?
You got to think about it.
All right,
if I have, it's been a while. Let's just say that.
Here's the thing: if you get over a certain age, like 35-ish or whatever, spritzers are gonna happen. You might as well be Perrier, because it just, it comes out, it sparkles, it might burn a bit, but it's all in good fun. And he also says, you gave us good memories in your career. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Shaman Steve says, great interview. He's enjoying this. I appreciate you. And Jesse Velasquez says you paved the way for the future generation of fighters, which he's one of them. Yeah, man. So good, so good. Now, one of the other ways, and most people that might not live in California or kind of follow the amateur scene here, one of the other ways that you give back, in addition to your coaching and what have you, but you're a referee, for CAMO, the California Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Organization, and the deal, and we were kind of talking off air, and it's something that I find hilarious, right? Because you're in the cage and refereeing, and it's like you and Herb Dean and Frank Trigg and AJ Jenkins, like all of you guys, John Romero, all of you guys have fight experience and have been there. And there are times where there's a down opponent, you might have to pull somebody up off of the opponent, and somebody wants to get into your guys' face. And I'm like, wow, this is a stupid human trick that I'm getting to see
Yeah.
right before my very eyes.
I think I'm lucky in my case. They're pretty good with me. Most guys are pretty good, and I think that is one of the things that helps about being a fighter, is the athlete knowing, they go, they're thinking like, hey man, if Chris Leben stopped the fight, I must have been pretty bad, so I do get that. But the flip side of that is, as a ref also, you got to have thick skin, because here's the thing, and I get it, a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of people, when they lose, want it to be somebody else's fault. And whether that's their coach, a training partner, the judges scored it wrong, the referee stopped it early, we unfortunately, and not just in our sport, in all sports, we see that, and it's unfortunate because you don't grow from that. You don't grow from blaming somebody else for stopping the fight too early. Well, why was it even an option that he stopped the fight too early? Where did you make the mistakes up until that point? Like, listen, dude, you got taken down. You gave it your back, then you had to turn to mount. Sure, maybe you were still calm, but what about maybe go back to the gym and work on those things? This is what I tell my athletes, at least when they come to me with, I think the ref stopped it too early, or the scorecards were off. I tell them, hey, listen, you can't leave it up to the judges. Mm-hmm. You don't know. You're not the judges. Judging, we have a criteria, but in some ways it's subjective. Not all the judges score the fight the same way every time. Mm-hmm. You might have two judges 10-9, one might have it 10-8, and they may all have valid reasons for that scoring. So my answer to that is, don't leave it up to the judges, and if you're arguing an early stoppage, well, you probably made some mistakes to get yourself there.
No, 1,000%. And I'd be remiss not to talk about it, but August 28th, 2020, in Bentonville, Arkansas, Northwest Fighting Alliance is putting on Retribution, which you, good sir, will be refereeing. So if you want a little bit of the Crippler and you're in the Arkansas kind of area, like that Panhandle deal, it's going down at 7640 Southwest Regional Airport in Bentonville, Arkansas, where you can see this guy referee his ass off.
Yeah, great show. I ref the last one. It's a pro and amateur show. I think Jesse Taylor is, you guys all remember him, won the Ultimate Fighter twice. I think he's going to be the main event versus Seth Olowski. Is that the last? I'm going to forget Seth's last name. Seth's a friend of mine. So if you're watching, Seth, don't get mad at me. We definitely have trained. I've trained plenty with both those guys. This is a rematch from years ago, a fight that I remember, which was great, went the distance. So, and besides that, there's a bunch of other tough guys on the card, a lot of tough Californians coming out, fighting tough guys from Arkansas. So, yeah, if you're in the area, man, check it out.
No, 1,000%. And yes, it is Seth, the Polish Pistola. I like that name, Brzezinski, 100%, versus JT Money, Jesse Taylor. That's going to be a good one. So check that out on NWFA's social media pages for ticket information. You'll be glad you did. 100%. Rocky Nelson wants to know, what one fight do you wish you could have had but never got?
That's a tough one, man. I fought pretty much everybody, in the UFC at the time, So I mean, obviously there's some rematches I wish I could have got. I wish I could have got a 3-round fight against Josh Koscheck, in the actual UFC instead of 2 rounds on the show. I would have really liked that. And I mean, but it's not worth it. It's not worth thinking about. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Who would you like to rematch? Everybody I ever lost to, and I would like those all to be wins now. Who would you have liked to? Hindsight's 2020. So I'm I had the career that I had, and I'm pretty happy with it.
No, absolutely, and it's there are a lot of guys. I mean, Tito's fighting Anderson Silva. That's in a boxing fight. Some folks that
trip out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, man. And
hey,
man,
is De La Hoya still fighting too? I saw him working out on the internet today. Looks like he's training. So.
Yeah, no, he is. I forgot who he's fighting. It just kind of. I kind of dip in. Oh,
Vitor
yes.
Belfort. That's a bad idea, bro.
But are we going to get TRT Vitor? That could be interesting.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's boxing. It's not USADA. So maybe we'll get like a half, like an in-between, half TRT, half TRT, half natural, You'll probably have to clean up for a few weeks before the cast, but
I can just imagine, because my mind went literal that you're gonna get half dad bod Vitor and half
right down the middle.
Yes,
dude, somebody's got to do that. I mean, I've seen a side by side with TRT Belfort and then non TRT, but we got to do a half, like paste the two pieces together. That would be an incredible. You imagine that picture, dude?
That is so good.
Guy. It's the same dude.
Well, I mean,
these pictures are 6 months apart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to get too much of like the genetics and whatever, but like they say, from what I hear, you get like with the TRT, you get like the puffy nipples, right? But then also dad bod and COVID weight, you also get the drooping of the nipples. So you'll have one puffy, one, I don't know, maybe I thought two. Yes,
one
I know.
Puffy, one drooping.
Sorry, Vitor. I also have your World of MMA figure too. So just saying, it's all love.
Dude, you better hope you don't have him on next week.
I know. But then I get to test the theory, and we're like,
honestly, I love Vitor, and I think he's still dangerous. And I don't know if anybody else watched that first Jay Paul fight where Oscar De La Hoya was commentating, but I don't know if he's all there, dude. Or if he was just not all there on that particular night.
I'm sorry, Chris. This is where I'm going to disagree with you. I want Oscar De La Hoya to do Emerald Lagasse, like commentate that. I want him to do everything. I want him to read my weather reports. It's just a shit show. It's a fucking
balloon. You gotta deflate the balloon. He's saying you gotta go to the body, like, dude, are you coaching or commentating or what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about right now?
Or he might have been hitting, like, oh, that guy is whatever.
And you could tell he was throwing punches while he was talking into the microphone. I mean, he's breathing all heavy and shit, like winded. He's fighting the air, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes I'm just saying. Rocky Nelson wants to know, Are you ever gonna ref in Washington State?
Hope so. Hope so. There's a lot of shows up there. I would love to rep Washington and Oregon. There's some, a lot of those old shows that I fought on are still going up there, and you know, that's where my roots are, Washington and Oregon, and it's a trip, man, because those two states just pump out tough dudes. Something about it, maybe not the most technical wrestlers, but when it comes to grinders, grinders come out of Washington. So I certainly would love to. Right now I got my pro license in Arkansas, working on a couple other states, and then really my goal is to be able to referee and judge, as a professional here in California. California, not just in my opinion. Well, it is. It's the hardest state to be certified for as a ref or a judge. So once I get that one, I think the other states it's pretty easy to get to. It's just a matter of paperwork at that point.
No, 100%. And I mean, you're logging in the miles, so I don't see why that wouldn't happen. So I'm just saying, hey, bureaucratic red tape. Let's get everybody to kind of. Can they hit up Andy Foster? Is that not a good look? Is that not
Yeah.
a good look?
Whatever everybody listening to this interview, whatever you do, don't start messaging Andy Foster for me.
Yeah.
I
Don't tell
appreciate
the.
the love, but please don't. No, you
Don't.
know what? I'm happy to to do the time and do the work and do all the amateur shows. I love doing the amateur shows. I'll continue to do those. I've had some opportunities recently to do some shadowing and for CSAC, and then also do some pro am shows. So things are happening. I mean, COVID I think sidelined all of us, not just me, but the whole state. Sidelined all of us, and now that we're back to moving, it's just like training. It's just like people call me and they ask me how do I get to the UFC, and it's like, well, you put one foot in front of the other, and you go to the gym. You do that for years. You fight amateur. You move up to a pro show. You go to a better. It's the same. It's the same thing. I have to go through the same uh, motions as a ref. I got to work my way up to the UFC and Bellator. You don't just start there.
Mm-hmm. No, 1,000%. Nate Wren says my favorite fight of yours was when you fought Justin Baseman. Any memories of that fight?
Well, yeah. I mean, that wasn't too long ago. That was my, for the BKFC, my second bare knuckle fight, but my first one for BKFC. And Baseman's a great guy. Tough fighter. And it worked out well for me. Fuck, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Uh, Worked out good for me, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and shout out to Justin because I believe he might have fought like last week, and then he's probably fighting next week.
He's staying active. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's staying busy, and he's beat some real tough guys too, so
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't want to overstep here, but I think it just depends what, just like anybody, what kind of training camp he's had and what kind of mental state he's in when he gets in there. But the best Justin shows up, he's dangerous. He's dangerous to anybody.
Yes, he is. 100%. Now, speaking of dangerous, the good brother, Juan Ramos, wants to know what was the biggest purchase you made while in the UFC? As a fellow gym owner, how's the new gym going? So, two-part question there.
What was the biggest purchase
Mm-hmm.
I made while in the UFC? Let's answer that one first.
All right.
Not counting drugs.
Okay. I mean, either or, whatever you want to do.
I mean, you want me to be honest?
Sure. Let's.
I do remember after one fight, they let me cash my UFC check at the casino. Blew the whole thing in like 3 days, dude. I was young. Lessons learned. And as everybody I think knows, I'm pretty open about my sobriety. How important that is to me. I'm very committed. I'm an advocate in the community here in San Diego, and I do a lot to to help others. Because yeah, on a serious note, that probably really is the answer. Probably fucking drugs, and booze and women, you know, uh, and then if that wasn't that one, it was a fast car. Definitely, my my Chevelle that I spent a ton of money on, a '66 Chevelle Super Sport with the blower and everything else, so I could look cool with the booze and the women, Um, but I'm here to tell you guys what not to do. Don't do what I did. As a I think I think that now the only way that I can look at a lot of the mistakes that I made, in my past, ultimately all that stuff cost me a lot of pain, a lot more pain than I let on. It was all for the glitz, for the bling of it, but really, a lot of pain, and I'm lucky that I made it out the other side, and I kind of look at it as well. The positive thing that I can take from blowing all that money on drugs and cars and women, is that you know I've now put my life in a spot where I can hopefully inspire, guide, and relate, especially to these young athletes, because a lot of people in our sport, let's face it, you didn't get in to combat sports because you had a wonderful household and you were college bound. A lot of people that get into our sports come from the wrong side of the tracks, and being from that same line, and having been able to change my life, I feel that as a coach, it gives me that little extra something to be able to relate to some of these kids where, they won't listen to mom and dad, but they'll listen to tattooed Chris Leben with cauliflower ears that says fuck.
Hmm.
Maybe I can be the voice of reason. So that's kind of the blessing that I take from it.
Absolutely. And then I guess how's the new gym going?
Oh, bro. you know, I'm I'll tell you what, listen. I'm ops. You know what I mean? I love coaching. I love teaching guys. I don't give a fuck what the front desk is going to look like. I don't care exactly what kind of lights we're putting in, but apparently we're going with hexagon shaped ones. They're more like octagons. Apparently those look cooler, and what the girls' locker room is going to look like, and what color we should paint the wall, and if we should put this painting in there, and is it worth buying this for that? And so, in other words, what I'm saying is it's a lot. I was on the phone for like an hour and a half at the bank doing business accounts and lining stuff up and leases and negotiate. But it's moving. It's moving, and it's teaching me a lesson in adulting. Um, I'm 41 years old now. And I have to learn how to be an adult and be able to communicate with people on without emotion, without getting frustrated, without getting overwhelmed, and handle these things. So that's really what I've really been focusing on. I'm almost looking at running this business like I look at martial arts. From every training session, I always go, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what needs improvement, what could I change, and I'm almost looking at my life now in business from a martial arts standpoint. Okay, so that interaction, well, it took about an hour too long. Maybe I should have, we didn't need to go down that rabbit hole. I need to learn to be more abrupt with, this is what I need from you, or you know what I mean. That's just an example. But and I spent some time, talking to my mentors about that, because it is, man. Everything is applicable to martial arts in my book. I mean, martial arts is all I've ever done. So, of course, I find a way to tie it back, but really, it is.
I love it. I love it. Are you kind of brushing up on the the HDTVs as you're kind of going through the aesthetics, or you just like leaving that to, I don't know, an interior designer?
The what?
Like, are you doing like color schemes and going down like how this thing could look and whatever about like home improvement or business improvement?
Yeah, I mean, with the, but I already, like we have an interior designer for the gym, and you know, I don't know. It's like I tell my tattoo artists, they say, "Listen, man, you're the artist, bro. Draw it the way you think it's gonna. Just make my shit look sick. That's the most important thing to me. Alls I know is that you're probably better at your job than I am. Like don't don't try to tell me how to do an armbar or try to tell me how to run my class. Which, by the way, I've had to have that conversation with a couple people. Like you're not going to tell me how to do a kickboxing class, okay? I'm not going to tell you what bench goes best with the wall and floor. I don't know. We all have our specialties. And what I'm learning is really delegating. I'm getting really good at delegating, finding somebody that's good at something and putting them on that job.
No, that's part of that adulting process is knowing when you're a little bit over your head and bringing specialists in to kind of help you out.
Yeah, that's it. And I am not afraid to, I wouldn't say I'm a micromanager. Some people might, but because I am not afraid to be like, listen, you know this better than I do. Like, I might be able to chime in with, functionality, because I've been in a lot of gyms, like, but other than that, better than I do, and you're doing a lot more research than I am.
Yeah, no, 100%. That delegation is key. Rocky Nelson says, "Congratulations on your sobriety. It
Thank you.
it feels good to be being sober. 100%."
It does, absolutely, yeah, yeah, man, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know where I'd be if I wasn't sober. I'll tell you that. You know.
No, you're a gem to us all. It's just glad to have you around.
Thank you,
It's
man. Yeah, and
yeah.
I want to stay around. So, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. And Ron Rotmos says, follow Alan Belcher's system. It helped me grow, and I'm a nobody, and I'm 200 plus members in now. It helps with lead generation, appointment setting, closing all.
Are
Needs to
we
be
plug? I
optimal.
mean, we're plugging Alan Belcher right now. Listen, I
I
love
think
Alan Belcher.
so. I think so. That's what happened here. But hopefully it's not Johnny Cash tattoos that
it,
we're
it,
following.
in all honesty, I hear his system is fantastic. But what I think is funnier is how his tattoo changes with his body, like the on weight Alan Belcher and the young Johnny Cash versus the not on weight and like the old Johnny Cash. Yeah, the tattoo literally changes. It's funny.
Yes. Well,
You know what I'm
about that.
talking about. You know
Yes,
what I'm talking
100%. Here's the deal. I make a joke often. Ray Borg, right? Ray
about.
Borg, he has when he was fighting, he had Taz Mexican Devil as his fight moniker. And I'm like, you had the layup, right? You had the layup. Your last name is Borg. You could be Cyborg. That's it, it's mana from heaven when you get layups like that. You got to play it as it may.
You tried to
So
go too big, man.
too
You tried
big,
to go
right?
too big.
So I often say that Alan Belcher's Johnny Cash tattoo is the Taz Mexican Devil of fight nicknames and tattoos.
Okay. All right. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, I'm just saying. No, love to them all. Glad everyone's doing well. But one last, kind of deal before we go. Obviously, your final run of your fight career with BKFC. Everybody that I talked to that has been involved in both behind the scenes and in front, in the fighter perspective, has raved about BKFC and their treatment, and for you to get that run with the promotion sober, a lot of the great moments that a lot of people remember, you maybe weren't in the best mind and state. So how good was it to kind of finish your career on your terms, your fight career on your terms?
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I didn't finish my UFC career on my terms, and I lost some fights that, in hindsight, I think I probably could have won, and my last fight was pretty depressing for me. I think, a lot of people may know this, but I was fighting Brunson, and I finished that fight on the stool, which means I didn't go out for the third round. Um, and that kind of, being a guy that was known to live and die, that live and die out there, I would never quit. I've never tapped in a fight ever. I either win or I get crushed pretty bad. They go down. Live by the sword, die by the sword, dude. That's just the way I am. It's the way I've always been. Kind of my mantra. But as things progressively got worse for me, in my life outside of the cage, my commitment and compassion, to the sport that gave me everything, the sport that I love so much, faded because my passion for everything in life had faded at that point. It wasn't until I got sober, and I started training again hard and beating the shit out of 20-year-olds at the gym, that I realized how much I love martial arts. I love combat sports, and you know, uh, without getting into a long story, tried to fight for Bellator. Some things didn't work out with my health. Ultimately, through continuous sobriety, some supplements, some Chinese herbs, some Western medicine. I was able to fix my ailments, and about the time my cardiologist cleared me to be able to fight was about the time the phone started ringing for the BKFC. So again, was it faith? Was it luck? Was it just a series of amazing events? That's just the story of my life. The fucking phone rings at the exact time I need it to. Things serendipitous. Is that what we're calling it nowadays?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if it's a secret, man. I don't know what it is, but yeah, right when that happened, right when I got cleared, is when I got the call, and then I ended up going and having that first fight with Phil Baroni, and then I was hooked on bare knuckle after that, and I was lucky enough to be able to get in with the BKFC, the king promotion when it comes to bare knuckle, and have had those 3 fights with them, so. And I was able to tie it back in, like you said, finish my career on my terms, go out, particularly, that last fight with Quentin Henry, go out with a slugfest that was, kind of reminiscent of the old days, So, yeah, man, I wouldn't change a thing. You know what I mean?
No,
Without those great lows, you can't have those great highs. So quite a journey, dude. Quite a journey.
Yeah, no, 1,000%, 1,000%. And again, just my heart filled with joy just knowing that, and a lot of us here that know you and have the privilege to know you. It was just like, yeah, man, he's doing it, and you were doing that concurrently by judging fights and reffing fights. So, man, you were doing it all.
That's it. Yeah. Don't forget coaching full time.
Yeah, 1,000%. Hashtag never forget.
Yeah.
But obviously, Chris, you've done a lot of things in your career, and you wouldn't. I don't think you would have done it, just on your own. You had a wonderful support system, both professionally and personally. So take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Oh my God, shout outs. Jeez. I don't. Everybody that has helped me along the way. Obviously, my sponsor, and I have a group of friends of men that are very supportive and uplifting and help push me in the right direction. All the coaches, over my entire career. Randy Tour, Robert Follis, Matt Hume, Chris West, Coach Joe Vargas down here, my boxing coach that cornered me for the last one. All these guys, Barrett Yoshida. Dude, we'd be here all day if I was going to tell you but I mean, it took an army of people to push me to where I'm at now. There's literally been an army of people that have helped me out over the years, and I'm grateful to every single one of them. And if they're watching and I didn't say your name, man, you know it, dude. You already know it, and I've thanked you individually.
No, 1,000%. And Anthony Mendelola says, when's Leben gonna wrestle Dirty Ron? Do you know of Dirty Ronald McDonald?
I do know Dirty Ron McDonald. He is a local pro wrestler. He's got a pro wrestling show. Great guy, funny dude, and he lives not far from my house. I think they have a gym. They put on some shows down there. Yeah, and I'll tell you the funny story. And Ron, if you're watching now, you can find out what happened. Now I'll tell you what happened. I went and I thought about maybe trying pro wrestling. They invited me out to a show to referee, and then I was going to get in a fight with the bad guy or was going to start shit with me. So I go out and I do a little interview, and the bad guy, they play his music, he comes out. But then I continue to sit to watch the rest of the show, and the bad guy kept coming over to me and talking shit during the show, right? And I know in my head that this is pro wrestling, and this is what it is. But I'm still getting fucking pissed off, right? I'm still getting mad. So it was at that point that I decided, you know what? I can't do this. I cannot be a pro wrestler because I'm going to fucking crack. Because the problem was I might not be the fastest talker in the world, right? So, you know what? I haven't exactly done all my talking with my mouth, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So my default started to want to kick in, and I realized that, you know what? Maybe I'll leave pro wrestling to professional wrestlers.
Yeah, but you say that, and you know what I just booked in my head? You and Frank Trigg, wrestling like a Texas death match or something weird and crazy, because like Trigg had a run with TNA as like Kurt Angle's body double.
Yeah, maybe I'll bring out Stephen Bonner and Phil Baroni. I've heard they've been doing tag teams together.
Yes. Oh God, I'm booking it. Like my wrestling mind is just going ba 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 ba. I'm gonna find a promoter. Make it where it says soft and sweet, just in case you have to eat them later.
Dirty Ronald McDonald will do it, bro. He would love to do it. Trust me.
I like it even more. That's it. And preparation and opportunity. Absolutely, Shaman Steve. And Rocky Nelson concludes. Before you go, once again, thank you for all that you've done for the sport. And it's great to see you doing good. And Josh Koscheck is a douche.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it, dude.
And last but very not least, for those who want a little bit more of the Crippler and to find out more about your gym across the interwebs, where can they do that, good sir?
Well, I just got www.chrisleben.com. And there's not a ton of stuff on there now, but all the updates for the gym. We're going to have a big, huge grand opening party. And we want everybody to go. So to register, go there, register. And then I think it's Chris Leben MMA on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Twitter. I'm on Twitter and Facebook and blah, blah, blah. You guys know the drill. So, yeah, there we go.
Well, again, Chris, again, it's been an honor and privilege to have you on. Again, you're one of the guys that it's just weird. Like, I watched you, and it's just like, then I went from watching you to like seeing you almost every weekend for the last 4 years pre-COVID, and it's just like, it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. So thank you.
So thank you, man, and I'm excited. We're going to be seeing a lot more of each other now that this everything's clearing up. So. Lots of fun times ahead, dude.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of fun stories, and and maybe some of those we can't talk about on air, but kudos. And again, thank you guys for joining us here at According to the Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to the Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Chris, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Of course, yeah, on YouTube, and Twitch.
Yes, absolutely. So be like the Crippler and go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. But if you don't believe me, you don't believe Leben, I don't know why you wouldn't, but here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zhang to help convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta